Why would you defend Rachael Kirkconnell?
It was a mistake.
Chris Harrison will reportedly be addressing the Bachelor controversy in a new Good Morning America interview. Hey guys, welcome back to another Shared News from Home. We have got to talk about this major Chris Harrison development, but before we get started, if you're new here, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. As always, I'm your host, Fiona Zaring, and I'm joined by the wonderful Avery Grooms. Avery, Chris's future in the franchise has truly been called into question after that controversial interview with Rachel Lindsay literally has turned everything upside down. He announced he'd be temporarily stepping down from his role, but fans are calling for real change in the franchise, so I think the question is just, where do we go from here? Sources are now reporting that Chris will be appearing on Good Morning America to address the controversy. So let's get into everything we know. Multiple sources connected to the show confirm that he has been booked to appear in the quote near future. So we don't have an exact date there, but it in theory could be happening at any moment.
Why would you defend Rachael Kirkconnell?
It was a mistake. I made a mistake. I am an imperfect man. I made a mistake, and I own that.
Additionally, a source close to The Bachelor told E! News, quote, Chris is speaking out about the controversy and wants to explain the actions he is putting forward to redeem himself. He wants to explain the work he is doing to help reconcile his actions. So, Avery, what do you make of this? What do you make of the show's statement? You know, the fact that he's doing the interview, how do you feel?
I'm not surprised by the fact that Chris is doing this interview. He has had such a clean image up until this point of being in the entertainment industry, which has been years and years and years. So I didn't expect this to happen and him to just walk away from it. I knew there would be something coming. But what kind of is the question in my mind is, when this first happened, the whole interview with Rachel, he did not apologize to Rachel until the backlash. So I just wonder, had all this not happened, would he even be stepping forward to do this interview, you know?
Right. No, it's kind of this whole thing has been another example of like one step forward, two steps back. Like, yes, there's progress, but we have to look at the whole lens of like the steps they're taking, why they're taking them. You know, I think for a lot of people, it comes down to, we want people to be held accountable. Accountability is great, but what is the path that got us to this accountability? Is it genuine? So I think Chris has a lot riding on this interview. The last interview he did, you know, landed in some very, very hot water. So in theory, there's going to be a lot of prep, you know, a lot of coaching. I'm sure he's going to go in there with some sentiments that he obviously needs to hit, boxes he needs to check. But it'll be interesting to see what this does, if it can truly be a reset button. It sounds like this interview, in theory, is part of an overarching strategy, at least in my opinion, to get Chris back to his hosting duties and keep him a part of the franchise. You know, like a lot of people felt like, okay, maybe this is it. Maybe he just bows out gracefully. He's had a great run. But to me, you know, this sort of smells like the first step in a PR strategy to fix part of the show's, you know, current image issues. Do you think that this is a pretty clear hint that Chris is probably going to ultimately come back?
I think so, especially after looking on Twitter and seeing how disappointed a lot of fans were that he was going to be gone. There's two sides to this argument, you know, the fact that what he did was wrong, what he said was wrong, but we want accountability, but we also want people to grow and learn. And I feel like if he was to just step down and walk away from this, that's kind of the easy way out. And the only way we could see change is if people are actively engaging in it. And that would be him continuing as the host and living up to what the franchise says it's going to do and these changes that are going to be made. But I feel like he would have to be a part of that to actually see the growth.
Right. If we can see, you know, an actual shift in Chris Harrison's, you know, behavior, you know, he's a producer and a host, right? So like what the production team is kind of putting forward with him as the face of it would really, I think, if there was stark contrast there, it would be meaningful because people could recognize a clear shift as opposed to just bringing in somebody else who obviously is going to have, you know, a completely different take, a completely different personality. You know, it would just be different as opposed to change, I guess. I mean, it's like a fine line there, right? Like what counts as what. The one thing that I think we've been talking about a lot is this clearly can't be a simple fix. They, brought in Matt James, which was historic and a great big step, and they cast such a diverse cast of women, but that didn't mean all of the show's overarching problems behind the scenes, were solved. Do we think that Chris doing an interview like this, and coming back and continuing to preach, change, etc., is going to be enough? Like, or do we need to see some actual tangible differences in the structure of the show itself moving forward?
Yeah, him coming forward and apologizing or whatever on Good Morning America definitely will not be enough. And I think we all know this already. But, the thing is, they tried to make change by casting a more diverse cast, but then they kind of cheated their way through it by only giving the white women the most camera time, and it wasn't even like half and half. It was like a significant percentage. So they could say one thing, but we have to actually actively see it. Like, he can come forward, apologize, but that's not the end of it. What steps is he going to do to show the difference? And that being said, he is the executive producer. So he also is behind the scenes making these calls. It's like, why was it even discussed that, okay, we're going to cast a more diverse cast, but they're not going to be shown as much? Like, what's the point of that and why? I just want to know why. So I'm interested to see how it will change behind the scenes if he continues, and him still being the face of the show, because we love what he did for the majority of the time, him being the face of the show. He was a very likable guy, a great host, but that's what people liked about him. And now we see this other side, and we just need this to keep moving in a way that it's the best of both worlds. We could see him actively changing and then also keeping that great host personality that we all love, and kind of just gives the whole theme of the show. Because if they were to get a new host, the show would change and it would lose a lot of, fans. But even if he stays the host, they will also lose fans.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting thing to navigate moving forward. And I mean, what's so complicated, I think, if I were a producer in all of this, is The Bachelor is a dating show, right? Where it's supposed to be light, silly reality TV, but they found themselves as a part of a major conversation that's happening in this country, around the world right now. And they have a role to play, and they need to step up, and they need to hit the mark, which they haven't done yet. So how do you, navigate all of these different paths? I'm not going to pretend to know, right? But I hope that the people behind the scenes are doing the work and getting the advice from people who do know, because if they can turn this around and set a great example, it would be, a positive step forward. All we know is that this interview is in theory coming in the near future. What I think is kind of interesting timing-wise in all of this is many members of Bachelor Nation really commended Chris's choice to step down from after the final rose. We know some really important conversations needed to be had during that special, and Chris, let's just face it, wasn't the right guy for the job right now. So that was a great choice in a lot of people's eyes. Do we think this interview, though, will come before after the final rose, or will they hold it, wait for that to happen, play out the way it should, and then Chris, will kind of step back into the narrative being a little bit more about him? How would you, think that should go?
I think they're going to wait for reactions after the final rose and see how that all plays out before throwing this in, because with Bachelor Nation, there's always so much, and one little thing can blow up into something else. I feel like if they were just to throw Chris Harrison's interview in the middle of all this, it would just be more flames to the fire. I feel like after the final rose needs to have its moment and its important discussions without him there, and then we could focus on, or he could even watch that and take a lot from it probably, and then we could focus on his interview and him potentially continuing with the franchise.
I totally agree with you, Avery. I think we're all going to, learn a lot, feel a lot during that after the final rose special. I'm really excited to see how that plays out. And then, like you said, let's see, what has Chris learned? What work is he going to continue to do? This interview obviously could be very, very important for him, important for Bachelor Nation. So we will all be waiting for more details as they emerge. In the meantime, you guys, we want to know your thoughts on Chris sitting down on Good Morning America and talking about the controversy. In the meantime, you guys, we want to know your thoughts on Chris sitting down with Good Morning America and talking about all of the controversy. So let us know down in the comments. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell so we can keep you updated on everything going on in Bachelor Nation. As always, I'm your host, Fiona Zaring, is joined by the wonderful Avery Grooms. If you want to come say hi, our social handles are on the screen right now. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.